The official timekeeper, is that?
I told you I have to watch it.
5:29 here.
I have 5:30.
Yeah.
that's
Need to get that fixed.
Hey, you set
You
the
need
clocks
better
at home,
whistle.
I want it set by that.
Buy a Rolex at the same time. Tell them about your Rolex.
Just
I
buy
don't have
her,
the kind of money you do.
just buy her a whistle.
Ah,
I gotta keep my mic on. Good evening and welcome to our special meeting of the Crestview City Council. At this time, I ask if you have any electronic devices, you please turn them off so we can have a quiet meeting. And I welcome all of you. Really good to see this many people in the audience. Must be the topic. I'm hoping that's what it is. What I'd like to do is we get ready to do the Pledge of Allegiance, since I see so many Boy Scout volunteers out there. I'd like to call on one of them to volunteer to lead us in the pledge. Who would like to do that? Come on up, young man. If you would, please stand and join him. Thank you. That's neat.
you want to recognize him by name?
We could do that. What is your name there, young man?
Jackson Hart.
Jackson Hart, thank you so much. You've been on TV, you know that now? We got CCTV back there. I didn't want to tell you ahead of time, didn't want to scare you. Thank you for that. And we do have the meeting in the back of the room. We got, of course, Ken Nielsen, CCTV, and we have Aaron Jacobs, who's no longer in the Crestview News Bulletin. He's a freelancer. He just can't stay away from us. Misses us so much. Appreciate that. This time I ask if everybody would please sign in. And let the record show all councilmen are present, along with our mayor, our city clerk, city attorney, and all our department heads. Gentlemen, anybody have any objections to tonight's agenda? All right, with no objections, it has passed unanimously, and we'll go ahead and use that agenda. This time, we'll begin with the first public hearing, which is ordinance 1662. Madam Clerk, if you'd read that for us, please.
Well, ordinance number 1662 reads by title. An ordinance of the City of Crestview, Florida, providing for amending the City of Crestview Code of Ordinances, Part 2, Subpart A, Chapter 86, Traffic and Vehicles, by repealing Article 5, Traffic Impact Fee, and Article 6, Traffic Impact Fee Waiver, providing for severability, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance 1662.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now, Ms. Gaylord, if you would interpret that for us.
Okay. Gentlemen, we had the first reading at our last meeting, and we've discussed the impact fees for what seems like years, The repeal of the traffic impact fee will allow for the mediation of the traffic improvements based on the need in the vicinity where the development is, as well as the impact on the surrounding areas, and that will be mediated according to the existing code of ordinances. And as you know, our in-time goal is for a mobility fee. In the future, we will be partnering with Okaloosa County with that. But as it stands now, we just need the repeal of the traffic impact fee in order to allow the mediation of the traffic based on need.
Gentlemen, any comments or questions? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hayes.
Mr. President, just for the public's information, can we have Ms. Gaillard tell just a couple of disadvantages of having the traffic impact?
Hang on just a minute. Can you all hear him in the very back? No. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Need to repeat it louder?
No, that's all right.
Okay. That's all. If you could answer those two questions, please, for the public.
For the I'm sorry,
The disadvantages of the impact fee.
okay?
If you can give me just a couple.
Okay. Number one, they're a development deterrent because people privately look at the impact fees and say, and they don't really realize what it's for. Also, the end goal of the impact fees, therefore a designed set of projects that are within the capital improvements, which overall look terrific, which they're almost unattainable with the massive cost of development of them. I'm sure Mr. Steele may be able to give you a few more reasons why it's not to the city's full advantage of allowing the impact fees versus the mediation. The impact fees, like I said, were used for capital improvements that may not be in the vicinity of the need, whereas if the development was demanding for a turn lane, those mediation could actually have that turn lane built as part of that project. Am I being too simplistic?
No, ma'am. I think you've done a great job. They're one of the biggest disadvantages. Those funds are very restrictive. They do not allow the city to actually use them to the good of a new development. It's usually they're, like Ms. Gaylord described, they have to be used for specific developments that are approved, and most of the time years prior to the money. Once the funding's available, it's usually already outdated. So that's the reason we're trying to get rid of them and modernize our approach to new development and how to fund new development or deal with the cost of new development.
Any other comments, questions?
Mr. President.
Councilman Blocker, go ahead.
So really just for the public's information, just tell how much this developer would save on a $150,000 project.
That he would save?
Yeah.
We would have to find out what kind of project it was, and for what. I didn't bring the book that denotes the fees,
Oh, you didn't?
but say for a single-family home, that is in the ones that are current, that would be about $1,500.
Yeah.
In the 2016, which would have taken effect, that's about $4,200. So what's happening is the people that are putting in the development will do their transportation needs based on the need of that subdivision when it's being built. When the developer is actually developing the subdivision, you need to anticipate your turn lanes, your different transportation necessities at that point in time, and it becomes part of the development, which rolls into the actual cost of the overall subdivision. Instead of coming down when a homeowner is actually building a home, being laden a certain percentage on each individual homeowner after the subdivision's been built, and there's no chance of putting a turn lane or some sort of ingress egress in the subdivision at that time. So
Yeah, well, I'm pretty well averse to that, but so many people ask that question. And I'd like for the public to be educated.
well, what'll happen is the monies that the developer will actually be paying in the mediation may equal to what the fees were,
I understand.
but it will be utilized at their development. Their development will be causing that need. They will be paying for that need, and it's a little more business friendly. If you're going to need a turn lane, you help pay for that turn lane, then your customers use that turn lane. You can see a value in that. But what a lot of developers don't see is putting it up here in a piggy bank and waiting for 20 years to see if you can pave a half a mile of a road, 6 miles away.
Enough's enough. That's all, Mr. President.
All right, any other comments, questions? If not, I ask for action by the council, please.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Blocker.
I move to adopt ordinance 1662 on the second reading and send it to the mayor, city council president, and city clerk for signatures.
Second.
I I have a motion second to adopt ordinance 1662 on second reading and send to the mayor, city council president, and city clerk for signatures. Any further discussion? If not, please vote. Must have been sleeping. All right, thank you. Let the record show that the vote carried, motion carried 5-0. At this time, does anybody in the audience who would like to approach the council and talk to us about anything that's on tonight's agenda? Anybody in the audience like to speak to us on anything on the agenda? This is for the special meeting, not for the workshop, which will follow the special meeting. All right, we're going to move down to other items for discussion. 7A, charter documentation and handouts. Ms. Galen, I believe you're going to wrap that up. Again, you know, in order to educate the public, this won't be the first time we've seen this. So sometimes if it looks as though we're rushing through something like the other ordinance, we've seen it before, we might have a couple of questions and then we move on. The documents that Teresa's bringing to us this evening, we saw them before. We asked for a couple of minute changes, and she's bringing them back, and hopefully we'll get them adopted tonight. Your floor.
Gentlemen, we did put the couple of tweaks that needed to be. They've been fully approved by the land attorney, Scott Shirley, and he has given instructions. Upon every page of the document, you will find paid for and distributed by the city of Crestview. If you gentlemen so determine that you would like to provide your own documentation, there is a disclaimer that will need to be added to that, and you can come and address that at a time that you're discussing your documentation. These documents can be presented in anybody's town hall. They will simply be on a table, clearly marked that they are distributed by the city. If you so decide to distribute your own documentation, you will need to distribute them on a table marked with paid and distributed by councilman, and that you are only one member of the council board. But I'll be happy to discuss with y'all later the documents, how many you want, and which presentation format you want it in.
Ms. Kayla, did you have some samples? I didn't get one in my book. Can you show us the updated samples?
They're identical to the others, just the little tweaks and spacings are moved.
I've seen them, but I'm not sure everybody else wanted. Did you all need to see the tweaks?
They were just tweaks where dates, maybe a partial of a date was on the line, and you moved it to another line. They're here, same verbiage. The only verbiage that he corrected.
We moved City Hall off that one
Yeah.
trifold.
We moved City Hall and put the date. Remember, it was to be identical to the date that was listed in the factual larger brochure. As we cannot give a directional, which some had suggested go vote, that's directional. Stating that on October 28th, there will be a chance and an opportunity for them to vote is factual. So it's where it's been scrutinized, that it's factual information, and that's what we have.
Gentlemen, any comments or questions? I just want to make sure we have the clarification on the distribution.
Okay.
And that is, so at my town hall meeting,
Yes,
which
sir.
I'm having tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Azteca Restaurant, from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m., in which I will discuss the upcoming referendum and take comments and questions from anybody in attendance. I can hand these out as long as I don't hand out anything in writing that's in opposition to them,
Exactly.
unless I identify it as my own.
As your own documentation. If you're going to hand out your own documentation, it needs to be provided in an area similarly to how this is presented. You've got the city of Crestview presented on this table, you would present yours on another table, and you would clearly have a sign stating that it's your own opinion.
Peace. And when can we pick up? copies of these
How many do you need?
tomorrow.
No, I said how many?
I know.
I have about 500 of each of them.
I don't
Are you going to need more than
500,
that?
but I'll probably need about 50 of each.
They're right here for you tonight.
All right, good enough. Thank you.
Mr. Whitten?
Yes, go
I
ahead,
just
Madam
need
Clerk.
for you guys to vote. We discussed putting the trifold in the July water bills and the ballots in the August water bill. We're looking at an approximate cost of a little less than 3,000, maybe even less than that, because a single-sided color brochure is $700, and it probably won't be double that for two-sided. But I just need for you guys to vote and approve for those to go in the bill, since they'll be coming out of the city budget.
Okay, we can do that. Did you hear what Madam Clerk said? Is that we authorize the mailing out, and she's identifying to be right around $3,000. Can I get a motion to authorize that payment?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hayes.
I'd like to authorize payment up to $3,000 for mailing out to our citizens for information on the charter.
Ready? So second.
Okay, got a motion second to authorize city clerk to mail out these handouts at an approximate cost of $3,000. Any discussion? Please vote.
Here, I got it. Here we go. I can't see it up there, but I can see it on Caesar's screen.
Okay, and the vote carries 5-0. You got to go ahead, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Teresa. Purchase of vehicle for the building and inspections.
Yes, sir. We have hired a new inspector in the Building and Inspections Department, and in the budget for this next following year is a truck for the inspector. Well, the inspector has passed some of his tests, and he is ready to be on his own. We would like to purchase that much-needed vehicle from our escrow account.
Comments, gentlemen? Questions?
President.
Go ahead, Mr. Blocker.
How many proposals do you have on that one vehicle?
Sir, it will be a government contract.
Okay,
There's no comparison with it. It's simply the government contract, and it's usually beats anybody else's bid, so.
okay. I understand.
Then you have an approximate cost.
We have an approximate. We'll be bringing you back a specific figure. We just need the permission to be able to do it. So we'll bring you back a cost so that you'll be able to give
Okay.
final approval
And I
for the
don't think
purchase.
We're not spending money. I don't think we need to vote on it. We have the consensus to let her go ahead and look at purchasing the vehicle.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Fair.
I would like to know what kind of vehicle, I mean, just for the record,
Uh,
description of it. I mean, is it an SUV, a truck, a car?
We're kind of looking at pickup trucks because that's what the other inspectors use, are our regular standard pickup trucks. Sometimes the contracts you will get a Ford or you can get a Chevrolet. Those are your two choices. We do have some that are immediately available here in town, and if we choose not to use one of the ones here in town for the same price, we will be ordering it, but we will be waiting 4 to 6 months. So we would like to investigate ones here in town to see if we can find something that would be acceptable.
We have the consensus and to let her investigate. There's no money being spent until she brings it back.
Yeah, but we'll be buying gas and all that on it, so I'd like to know how much it's going to use.
Capiche? And she'll bring it
We'll need a
back.
6.2 engine, a 3.1 would do.
You're way up here. I have no idea. I know they're white, red, blue. That's all I know.
All right, you got that. Special meeting for 23rd of July.
And we do have Miss Betsy says that there's actually a budget meeting that's going to also be scheduled there. We simply need adoption of ordinances. This will be the second reading of some adoption for the annexation of the Fleming's 40 acres and the Leon Daggs is 10 acres. That 40 acres needs to be in our conventional comp plan amendment cycle. And the only way we can do that is to have it adopted by the 23rd.
That was going to be my question. Is there something pushing it that has to be done by this date? Because we shouldn't have a special meeting just for
No, just for, but since there's two of them, we'll go ahead and do both of them, and they will both go out in the same cycle. Your conventional cycle has to be gathered together and sent out at one time. Your small scales are individuals.
So one is time sensitive. Okay, any objections to meeting before the workshop on the 23rd?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hayes.
no objections, but I will be cross-country on that date.
Disapproved. What time are we looking at?
We need to gather it in with, I think, you said the budget meeting's at 5
The
o'clock?
budget meeting was originally scheduled for 5 o'clock, but if you want to have the special meeting at 5 o'clock and then have the workshop after it.
Why don't we do 5 and then 5:30?
It's fine. You had nothing, this hasn't been published except for talking about it in the meeting, so we can change it.
Okay, sound good? All right.
I think the well, no. We'll change the advertisement before we send it out to be 5 o'clock instead of 5:30.
You haven't sent it out yet? Okay. All right, good. All right, thank you. Just a couple of announcements before we call from the audience again, and that is on Wednesday, 27th of June, the Kiwanis Club of Crestview, which has paired with the City Council to work on the environmental park, is having a groundbreaking over at the John McMahon Environmental Center. And that'll be at, we're asking people to get there about 11:45 to 11:50. At 12 o'clock, there'll be a bunch of us there with shovels, I believe, right, Mr. Steele? You don't have steel shovels, right? Get it? No. You have gold shovels for us, right?
Plastic.
Will all of us be able to be there with the exception of Councilman Koch, who thinks he's going to Cincinnati?
I'll be out of town.
You'll be out of town?
I'll be there.
All right, Mayor, you'll be there. Okay, we'll be there, and the public is invited. It'll be a short ceremony, probably 15 to 20 minutes. And it's a park that's kind of been neglected in the past, and that's why the Kiwanis Club got involved, said, what can we do? And we're going to, the city is putting in a new building in order to house all the museum pieces in there. And then the Kiwanis Club will step in afterwards and put in a little park and do those kind of things. So it's a neat thing, certainly invited to do that. Chief, do you want me to address your blood drive, or you want to address that?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, on the 20th of July, there's going to be competition between the Crestview Police and Fire Department, which is going to see who can give up the most blood. There'll be a blood mobile right here at City Hall, and they've signed up to compete against each other between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. So if you want to show up and catch some of the people passing out, I mean, cheer on the people, cheer on the people that are contributing. I think that would be a neat thing to show support for our police and fire. Appreciate you guys doing that. Of course, the 4th of July has been canceled. Oh, my bad, I read that wrong. The celebration will be at Twin Hills Park beginning at 9 p.m. If you want to get parking, you better show up long before 9 p.m., but that's when the fireworks will start. And then, last thing I have, gentlemen, y'all got the email from the mosquito control services, and he directly asked whether any of us would want to meet with him. Mr. Steele, I'm going to ask you, do we need any supplemental mosquito control services in the city besides what you or the county do already?
Not that I'm aware of. It's all regulated through the county.
Okay.
So that will be something that we would have to meet with them on. And I wouldn't suggest anything at this time.
Okay. He's asking to meet with someone to educate us, and so certainly feel free if you want to do that. But don't commit anything. And I believe that's all I have. So, moving on to the comments from the audience. Now, at this point in the meeting, we solicit comments from the audience, and it doesn't have to be tied to the agenda. Anything you'd like to talk to the city council about at this point, you would identify yourself, and I'd let you come up to the podium and speak to us. So does anybody in the audience would like to tell us what's on their mind about anything in the city? Anybody in the audience, it'll be a last call. Yes, young man, come on down. You're a brave soul. I appreciate that. Not that we're scary, but I mean, some people don't like to talk in public, so that's good. Would you give us your name and your address, please?
My name's Aiden Martin. The address is the area down by the military base has no traffic lights. The traffic's like very bad down there. So if we could like add traffic lights down there.
Could you define exactly which section you're talking about?
It has it's like down at the east side of Crestview, I think, and it has the military.
Valley Road and that area.
Hmm?
Valley Road, you're talking about
90 and
where the
down.
prison and the National Guard is, right?
Yeah, a little down the road. There's like a four-way road.
And you're saying you think there needs to be a light added there? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What we can do, you probably don't know this, but traffic lights aren't controlled by the city of Crestview. It's a bit weird. They're owned by Florida Department of Transportation in Crestview, but controlled by the county. So what we would have to do, and we can do this, our public services director could inquire to them. He could ask FDOT through the county whether that's something they would consider, and they would have to do a study or whatever. But Mr. Steele is listening to you, and Mr. Steele will give that input to them. Does that sound good to you? All right. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Any other inputs?
Yeah, I got one.
Yes, sir. Come on up and identify yourself, please.
I'm Tom Petoskey. I own the Tom's Main Street Ice Cream, and I was wondering, what's the city has a street sweeper that I've seen it used a couple times. Is there a schedule for cleaning at least Main Street? The few times I've seen it work, I don't know if it's working properly. I never noticed much water being sprayed down to actually clean the curbs. And anytime there's an event going to be on Main Street, I don't know why they don't want to run through there in the middle of the night when nobody's there, because they've come through and all these cars are parked and they just kind of go out in the middle and do what they can do. And I was just wondering, has anybody given it any more thought about any events coming on Main Street, getting that street sweeper out there in the middle of the night to clean the street beforehand?
Tom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our public service director maybe to answer your question for you right over there, since he controls
Yes, sir.
that function.
Thank you, Tom. We run the street sweeper before every event. It's sometimes you can really tell we have. Sometimes it doesn't do a great job, like you say. Those street sweepers, we have a new one now. It's doing a much better job than the previous one. The previous was a vacuum type. This one has brushes. The new one has brushes that actually scrub the curb. So I don't think you've seen it in action yet.
Not yet.
So before the next event, I think you'll see a big difference.
All right, and the idea of maybe coming in the middle of the night?
That's when we run it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we're going to adjourn this meeting on time. Thank you all for coming, and we do have a workshop following this meeting. Meeting is adjourned.